Well, I'm not the Prez, but this is definitely Wager Talk Today. And we want to welcome you in on this Monday here. We got a lot to go over, even though not exactly the biggest slates of games in the NHL, nor college basketball, nor the NBA. But we do have a big Monday night football game coming up here tonight between Dallas and Cincinnati. Teddy Covers will be in the house as he'll break down the game for you. Andrew McInnis ready to roll with the props for you guys here. A lot of different ways to take advantage of this big Monday night game between Cincinnati and Dallas. We also do have one big college basketball game, the Big Ten between Minnesota and Indiana. Bryan Power will be along to help us navigate that game, but no better way to start than talking some college football playoffs and bowl games. And who better than the pen? Ralph Michaels in the house, ready to roll here today. Ralph, what a weekend it was in college football. It was championship week. We got the final numbers and ratings, and now all of a sudden we're trying to piece it all together here, Ralph. And let's start with those 4 playoff games we're going to get in this opening round once everything starts going. And Ralph, there are some clear winners and there are some schools that are clear losers in this final ranking here. What are you seeing?
Joe, I think the committee got the right 12 teams. My biggest issue with the committee is there is no way in hell Boise State is a top 4 team in college football. I have them ranked number 27. And again, I think Penn State has the easiest path. First 2 rounds, they're over a touchdown favorite in round 1. And I would make them a 10-point favorite at Boise State in round 2. That's how much I think the committee has it wrong.
We, Ralph, did not see one conference championship game with a favorite of a touchdown or more. I'm looking at some of these numbers here, Ralph, in these early games coming up, and my goodness, that's not the same situation, is it, here with this first round, these first round games?
Absolutely not, Joe, but it makes sense. A conference final is basically 1 and 2. When we're talking the 12 seeds, we're basically talking the number 1 team in the SEC compared to like maybe this number 6 team in the SEC, and you'd always have a touchdown edge in there. But let's run down those 4 games, and I'm going to give you what my power rating numbers are. Now, again, this is early in the process. Injuries, matchups, things change. But based on my power rating numbers, Penn State is the first game. Notre Dame's the first game. The WagerTalk live odds screen, WT.buzz/odds, has Notre Dame 7.5 and 50. I actually make the Irish an 8-point favorite.
Wow, that's right off the bat. All right, so the Irish, ironically enough, Ralph, that game, those 2 teams not that far from one another, and they don't play each other very often. I believe the 90s was the last time they actually went head-to-head there, but 7.5, you think there's some value there? What about the Penn State SMU spot here? Any value with your power ratings there?
No, looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, Penn State 9 and 53.5. I only make Penn State 7.5. I clearly do not respect them as much as most people. I think this SMU team is solid, and I'm not sure if the times are set. It's listed first in the schedule. That's a big disadvantage for Penn State not having a night game for the whiteout. I would have added another 2 points of home edge for the Nittany Lions if it is a night game.
Yeah, it's a night game. It's a noon game. It's a noon game, I believe. Yeah, so it's a noon game. Yep, noon spot there. That's Saturday the 21st. Texas and Clemson, Ralph, we got no history because I don't believe they've ever played one another, if how ironic that is. But yet, again, another double-digit favorite here with Texas. Does that jive with your numbers?
I make Texas 13. So
wow.
Does it seem ludicrous to lay 13 points to Clemson? Yes, it does. Well, but when you break down their season, remember, they won on a last-second field goal against SMU. Had they lost, they wouldn't even been here. I think the number's legit. I actually lean Texas with the early number.
And, of course, Tennessee, Ohio State, Ralph, that'll round it out there on Saturday the 21st. 7.5 Ohio State. And we mentioned it off air, and it bears repeating here. I mean, congratulations on the undefeated season, Oregon. But, God, did they not get the worst draw? I mean, in all likelihood, they're going to have to take on either Ohio State or a big SEC team in Tennessee. The path for Oregon as a number one seed, Ralph, not great at all by them.
Well, Joe, again, that has something to do with them putting Boise 4. If Boise were below and they were playing Boise, you're talking about a 14-point difference in the line. So because the committee made Boise 4 and dropped those other teams down, that changes the effect of the number one seed and not getting a clear path. The college basketball guys that make the seedings are very used to this, and they give those number one seeds a fair path. Here, I think they just sort of played it out in what they thought they had to do. You know, in that game, I will tell you this. Had Ohio State beaten Michigan, I would have made this game 10.5. But my eye test watching Ohio State struggle against Michigan, I only make the Buckeyes 6.5. So for me, being a Buckeye fan, being less than this, I actually lean Tennessee. Doesn't mean Ohio State can't turn it around, but the eye test and the mind test on how Michigan manhandled them for a fourth straight year just had me drop their power ratings that much.
Should be an interesting very first 12-team playoff here in college football. We'll have much more on this as we move along. And a big shout out to the chat room, by the way. Bill Seibert in there, FB coach, Michael Hibbs, Andrew back in the house, Titan CT. Always a pleasure to see you guys. Don't forget that thumbs up would be much appreciated, as well as hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already and become part of that WagerTalk TV family. Because, Ralph, now that we've got playoff college football, that means bowl games are almost upon us here, and we're starting to see some numbers. Very interesting guide here on this graphic that you have been showing us. Talk to us here on some of these early numbers on some of these bowl games here. What are some of the biggest discrepancies you're seeing?
Well, guys, just head to my homepage at WagerTalk, WT.buzz/RM. I have a one-page PDF that you can print, has every college football bowl game with the lines. Now, we know the lines are going to change significantly, but it's important to know what the lines were on this Monday. So when there's injuries, when there's opt-outs, when there's sharps betting sides, you can figure out, was that a sharp move? Was that because people opted out? Was that because of clustering? Even if you don't want to use the guide, make sure you stay tuned in and log. Every 2 or 3 days, Joe, I actually write in the new lines to keep track of what the line moves are. Again, these are just based on my power ratings. I have not started to deep dive into these games, but the 3 biggest games, Joe, that have a disparity in my mind, Michigan against Bama. There's truly only one team that had a bubble burst this year. You know, the SEC or the Big Ten team that lost the conference championship in the past often played poorly in the bowl because they were disappointed to not get to the championship or to the Final Four playoffs. I think Bama is the only true team that is actually disappointed here. In that game against Michigan, the line opened 11.5. I make Bama 6. I think there's a 5.5 point edge with the Michigan Wolverines in there. If Johnny's listening in Detroit right now, he's saying, did Ralph just say he's leaning with Michigan? I know that's what he's thinking in his head. The other 2 biggest disparities. I think Florida is way too big of a favorite against Tulane. They're playing in Tampa Bay. You know, they're an 11.5 point favorite. I make that game much closer to 4 or 5 with the Gators. Yes, you get a 1 point home edge bump from me playing in state. But again, this is still a Florida team that hasn't proved to me they're going to get margin against a very well-coached team in Tulane. Tulane's head coach was thinking about going to North Carolina. He said today that he's going to stay put as the Tar Heels continue to talk to that guy named Belichick, who coached somewhere before. And the third biggest disparity for me, NC State in the Military Bowl. They're laying 5. I make the line 9.5, so a 4.5 point edge for me for NC State against the Pirates of East Carolina up in Annapolis, Maryland.
So some dude named Johnny Detroit in the chat just put "Go Blue." I wonder who that might be. Ralph, he is always listening. The guy's got he's got ears and eyes everywhere, and there he is. Go Blue! Shocker, absolute shocker. All right, Ralph. So a lot of different ways, and we'll have a lot of content coming up, guys, over the next week about approaching these bowl games. A lot of edges to be had, Ralph. A lot of bad numbers, like you mentioned early on. How about an early bowl play from you? We've got one actually coming up, I believe, the Veterans Bowl, Montgomery, Alabama, with Western Michigan and South Alabama. Is there a play or a side you like in that game?
Yeah, well, let me bring this up first, Joe. People often ask, is there a favorite edge? Is there a dog edge? Is there an over edge? Is there an over edge? When I went through the last 3 years in the database, favorites are one game over 500. Overs are one game over 500 collectively for the last 3 years. So there are no patterns. But one pattern that does hold true, Joe, double-digit dogs in bowl games since 2011 are 66.7% against the spread. That is pretty powerful. You're talking about, excuse me, I misspoke there, Joe. They're 61.5% against the spread. If that double-digit dog is off a loss, that's when it moves to the 66.7%. So I do like Western Michigan, which is this Saturday. There's only 2 games on Saturday, Army, Navy, and this first bowl game. So we have a situation where Western Michigan is a decent, well-coached team. They lost a couple games down the late. The offense really struggled. But MAC as a whole, I was surprised at this. I went back the last 6 years. MAC dogs in the bowl games are 13-6, 68%. The double-digit dogs, 61.5%. And if you say, wow, that South Alabama has had back-to-back big games, put up 35 points in each of their last 2 games, that is not a positive. Teams prep for those teams off high-scoring games since 2012. When a bowl team is off back-to-back games scoring 35% or more, they are only 34.7% against the spread, going 40 and 75 ATS, a big sample size. I will happily grab the early double-digit dog off a team with 35 points in back-to-back games. MAC has proven that they're solid as a dog. So to me, it lines up. It has potential to be my first client release for the bowl season.
I love it. And I believe, like Roger Long said, the Stat Daddy hitting the ground running in college football bowl season. That is how you make money, guys. That's how you make money during bowl season, is get on it. Don't let these numbers get stale. Don't let the market dictate. If you like something, get on it. And Ralph, great opportunity right now for bowl season with you and actually any of the handicappers at WagerTalk.com. 149 right now, all access bowl, right? Every bowl play from your favorite handicappers, just 149 right now. And no doubt, Ralph, you're going to be extremely busy this bowl season, aren't you?
Oh, it is awesome. You know, I am excited. I will tell you this. Traditionally, I would probably bet 70% of my bowl games the first 2 or 3 days of releases. But with all the opt-outs, and now remember, if a coach gets fired or leaves, like Marshall's coach who went to Southern Miss, seems like sort of a parallel move to me, but you know, who knows? Remember, even if the player is out of his transfers, he's allowed to transfer now because of the rule. So we're going to see more transfers. We're going to see more opt-outs. We're going to see more people that are going to new places to get NIL money. So I'm a little more conservative early on in the bowl season. But again, when I make up my mind, I'm going to bet a game, grab that number early, as you said, 149, every bowl play from now through the national championship. And the bowls are extended now. I think the national championship is Monday, January 20th. That gives us a few extra weeks of college football value this first season of the playoffs.
Ralph Michaels, the pen. There he is, guys, off and running. We appreciate it, Ralph. As always, we'll have more college bowl games, college football playoffs coming your way this week here on Wager Talk Today. Just another reason to smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Become part of this Wager Talk TV family, as we've got Well, we got a lot coming up here. Monday Night Football straight ahead here. Not exactly the game or the meaning of this game, really, that the NFL thought when they put the schedule together. We had thought both these teams, Cincinnati and Dallas, would be vying for, well, pretty big playoff runs here, but it just has not been the case. But the question is there any value on a side or a total in this one? And who better to ask than Teddy Covers? TC in the house. Happy Monday, Teddy here. And not exactly the game that, or at least the juice in this game we thought we might be getting. Two teams went hard left this season for both, Teddy. Is there any value you think one way or the other in this game tonight?
So, Joe, nice to see you, buddy, on a Monday morning. I'm used to seeing you on Bet on It. I'm used to seeing college football today. Now I got you on WagerTalk Today as well. I appreciate getting to see you first thing on a Monday morning. So I've got a bet on this game. I've got a client play on this game. If you watch WagerTalk Today, you'll get it for free. And for me, it's a very simple handicap here. All right. The Bengals can't be laying. All right. That's, they become the first team in NFL history to lose 4 games or more when scoring at least 33 points. This defense has allowed 34 plus for their last 5 ball games. Pittsburgh, they gained 4.3 yards per play against Cleveland yesterday. Last week against this defense, they gained 7.9 yards per play and scored 44 points. All right. You read the quotes out of the Bengals locker room, Jamaro Chase. Hard to process. We can't get a win right now. We've had a little margin for error for a while now. Got to find a way. Joe Burrow. It's a tough season. The cornerstones of the organization are going to be remembered by more than just this season. We remembered by how we handled this. Yeah, they're talking the talk. They're not walking the walk. And Burrow, of course, we look at what Burrow's done, remarkable things this season. Only 3 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL have thrown for 30 touchdowns in the first 12 games of the season with 5 interceptions or less. 3 quarterbacks in the history of the league. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. That trio has combined to do it 5 times. All 5 of those teams, after 12 games, were 9-3 or better. A couple of them were 12-0. Joe Burrow, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, first 12 games of the season, and the Bengals are 4-8. That tells you all you need to know about Cincinnati's defense. All right. It's a very difficult defense for me to get to the betting window with in support of, and my powering number for this game came a little bit short of the current number. I'll talk about Dallas in just a second. First, a couple of really good deals right now. There's this Finish Strong December, only $199 full monthly all access. Normally $299, so you're taking $100 off. That gets you every play, every day, every sport through New Year's Eve. If you want more than that, and no promo code needed for that, by the way, for the Finish Strong, only $199. Just go to my page or anyone's page at WagerTalk.com and take advantage. And of course, if you want to get on board with me, if I'm your guy, TC365 at checkout is going to get you 1 year, all access, every play, every day. No nonsense, no bait and switch. It really is that simple. $99 a month. Just T3. Just use promo code TC365 at checkout to take advantage of that offer. So Dallas all of a sudden has back-to-back wins, and admittedly, they haven't beaten anybody good. Is Cincinnati any good? And Dallas found a running game last week. Rito Dowdle, 112 yards on the ground. In the last couple of weeks, they've been able to run the football. A team that struggled with turnovers. Cooper Rush didn't turn the ball over last week. The team didn't turn the ball over last week. And the quotes coming out of I haven't heard 2 positive quotes out of Dallas's locker room all year. CeeDee Lamb's supposed to be back in the lineup tonight. Cooper Rush, quote, everything's kind of coming together, feeling good about it. We just needed that one last week, kind of get the ball rolling. Felt that victory feeling in the locker room post-game, last week, talking about the win over Washington. I can't lay points with Dallas. I can't ask Dallas to win a game, but can I ask Dallas to hang around? You bet I can. Against a Cincy team that I don't trust laying points on the highway. It's Cowboys for me. Real simple. The clients have it. I have it in my pocket, and that's the only way I would look for Monday Night Football. We have seen a ton of money come in on this over. Over money's poured in on this ballgame. Some of that's CeeDee Lamb, some of that's the Bengals defense. There's a modest correlation between Dallas and over here. Let's put it this way. I could picture a scenario in which the Cowboys cover an under game, which means that the correlation is only modest between the two. That being said, one has to expect Cincy to get some fair share in this one against a mediocre Cowboys defense, which means that if Dallas is going to cover, it makes sense to perhaps look at the over.
I think it actually could be, Teddy, the first time that the Cowboys will actually have their starting secondary in the game. Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland back, Jordan Lewis. Mike McCarthy said Diggs, everything has gone well. He should be out there tonight. I mean, we have seen improvement from the Cowboys defense, and now if they're getting a little bit healthier, it's a prideful group here. You think they can limit Burrow and Bengals in this offense here if they've got their full complement?
So Dallas has had virtually no home field edge. I mean, you don't want to give them a negative for playing at home. All right, they trailed by 20 plus with 5 straight home games or 6 dating back to the playoffs last year. And last time out, they finally got off the schneid. And again, it's the Giants. You don't want to overstate it, but they got a win on this field. They got a cover on this field that is something, an arrow that's pointed in the right direction. I don't remember the question anymore, Joe. I was thinking about home field all that time.
Well, there's a lot of questions about the total in there, but I mean, I don't know whether or not. Yeah. They are healthier as they've been all year on that side of the ball, and that's saying something for Dallas.
Yeah, look, one thing you have, I mean, this total opened as low as 45/45. Talk to your live odds screen. You could add a 44.5 at the open. Okay. There was a lot of over money initially, and there's been a bunch of over money since. If you're trying to bet over 50 in a game that you could have bet over 44.5 or over 46.5, it's hard to win that way, man. It really is.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
You miss a number, you say, all right, I missed that number. Maybe I'll get a chance to bet it in game. But you cannot be chasing after a number that you missed. If you don't have over in your pocket already, I would not recommend an over bet before kickoff because you missed a number. It's okay. It happens to all of us, Joe. It happens to you. It happens to me. There are times, hey, I leaned. I like this way. Oh, yeah. Oh, I missed it. All right. Move on to the next one. No bet for me with this total.
Yeah, team, by the way, guys, for those that, if you're worried about Dallas keeping up and you like Cincinnati, 27.5 is what I am seeing their team total at. So, there's always a way to look at that also there, Teddy. But it's also, like you had said, getting the best of the number. I know one of the best ways to do that, Teddy, is coming up in, 40 minutes here. It's a show called The Opening Line Report. What might one get from that show here, Teddy, at 1:15 Eastern?
Well, myself and Drew, that's 1 o'clock Eastern, right at the top of the hour. And, of course, we go through every game on the board for NFL Week 15. Drew and I have been doing this together for the better part of the last decade. I've been doing it in one form or another for the better part of the last 2 decades. And we go through each and every game, talk a little bit about what happened yesterday, talk a little bit about where the line opened and where we expect it to move, give out a couple of leans. It's not a pick show. It's an information show. But I don't think there's a better show. I know there's no better show on a Monday to get you tuned in for Week 15 NFL. I encourage you, stick around right here on this channel. Check out the NFL Opening Line Report. Again, Drew Martin and myself, top of the hour.
Guys, no better way to get a jump on the week 15 coming up here than watching that show. Teddy, happy Monday. Always a pleasure to see you. Get the hell out of here. You got a show to get ready for coming up top of the hour. It's the Opening Line Report. Just another reason for you guys to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you got a chance. Follow us on Instagram as well as TikTok. And those of you guys in there right now, Bailey, MUs, Quesada, always a pleasure seeing you guys. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to hang with us. We talked side and total in this Monday night football game. What do you guys think? We talk some props now. Nobody better than Andrew McInnis stepping in here, who is ready to roll on this game here tonight. And Andrew, you just heard Teddy, a lot of guys in the chat room here. Peasy, Bill, Starchild in the house, Titan CT. A lot of over money and a lot of over conversations in this game in the chat room. Does that correlate the props tonight in this game for you?
Joe, good to see you as always. And how refreshing is it to hear we got a Monday night where we can potentially expect an exciting game, some fireworks, some points. And I'm not here to say that you can't enjoy a football game if it's defensive. You know, I can get behind defensive sporting events, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of refreshing to hear a lot of people expecting some points here. This one, some offensive plays. And, you know, there's still games that can go under the posted total and you can bet over on props. But when you look at these two defenses and you look at kind of what some of the plays we've seen recently, I don't even really want to look at unders as far as props are concerned. You know, there's one or two I mentioned on my prop show today with Andy Lang, but I've got two overs that I like today. First and foremost, I wanted to mention, you know, the total's gone over. Its total is 9-3 to the over this season for the Bengals, 8-4 this season for the Cowboys, and that's just for the full game over. So you're certainly seeing props go over quite a bit for both these teams simply based on how many points there have been in their games. But the mention was Joe Burrow over 24.5 pass completions in this one here, Joe. He's gone over this number in 5 straight games. And, you know, for me, this is as much of a bet on Joe Burrow as it is a little bit of a bet against on his defense. Because as Teddy was just alluding to, numbers and having himself a great season really goes to show how much of a team sport it is, because who cares about the great numbers he puts up if they aren't getting the W's? And, you know, I've seen all these funny jokes out there across social media. You know, the Bengals could score, you know, 100 points and their opponent will score 101. You know, we could see Joe Burrow score, you know, 7 passing touchdowns and their opponent will score 8. Whatever goes on with this guy, Joe, his opponent just does better, or his defense lets him down. Steelers put up 44 on him, Chargers 34, 35 for the Ravens. Even the Raiders with 24 points. As Teddy was talking about, this defense has been so brutal. So there's been zero position where the Bengals have had the lead and they've just decided, you know what? Let's run the ball. Let's sit back. We'll protect this lead. There have been very, very few opportunities, Joe, where they've been able to just relax. So actually, the Cowboys are number 1 this year in pass completions per game, and the Bengals are number 2 this year in pass completions per game. And I wouldn't say as much that has to do with their offense. It's more so to do with the fact that they have to pass the ball because their defense is letting them down so much. So that's one that I really like for tonight, Joe.
What about position players here? I mean, if we like Burrow to throw the ball around the yard, everyone would look at Chase, I'm assuming, to think that maybe he's going to be a part of it. But you're going to look in the RB spot here. What are you thinking in this game tonight?
This is something I've always done. I love looking at running backs to not act as a running back and to act as pass catchers. I'm going to look at Chase Brown, running back from the Bengals, over on his receiving number. This one's interesting, Joe, because he went 11 straight games in his career going under on this number. And all of a sudden, he's gone over this in 4 straight games. He's been targeted 26 times in his last 4 games, at least 30 receiving yards in those last 4 games. And again, if I'm going to sit here and take a completions number over on Joe Burrow, there's got to be some guys he's going to pass the ball to. And again, you're going to have guys like T. Higgins. You're going to have Jamar Chase getting the ball. If this is a game that a ton of us are expecting points, the over is a popular bet. And you know what that means, Joe. Some things can go wrong, which is why I love these player props. And this is one thing I will say about Chase Brown here. Sometimes when a running back acts as a pass catcher, he's kind of like the last case scenario. You know, he's the last resort. But he's actually utilized in the offense. They're using him for production. He's getting a handful of yards after catch. Like a guy like Rico Dowdle, the opposite, you know, the running back for the Cowboys. I was saying today, earlier this morning, talking to Andy Lang, that I like the under on his receiving yards because he's just simply acting as a running back. And when he does catch a ball, it's pretty much like avoiding a sack, 1 yard, 2 yard catch, and then he ends up just getting tackled immediately. That's not the case for Chase Brown. He's been productive, and this is one of those ones where you want to get on early. As I mentioned, 11 straight games, Joe. He went under in this one. Now 4 straight games he's gone over. I'm hopping on board this train here. Give me Chase Brown over on his receiving yards.
I love this, Andrew. All right, so we're going Burrow over on his pass completions, and we're going Chase Brown over on his receiving yards. And I love this next one because we got to look at something for Dallas if this is going to be some sort of wild, crazy shootout. And I don't know that it actually favors Dallas to try to get into a shootout in this game at all, but this is an interesting one. You're looking at a kicker prop for the Cowboys, are we?
Well, look, this is the thing here, Joe. People think that field goals don't help overs. And I know the old saying, and I know if Kelly was here, she would say kicking is for losers, and I get it. Look, I lost a big play yesterday because, well, we saw a kicker for the Browns miss 2 field goals. I needed 1 to get over the total. Nobody wants to hear me complain, and I get that. But 9 of his last 11 games, we've seen Brandon Aubrey go over 1.5 field goals. And this is a little bit chalky, and I understand that. You can take a look at the recent history. You can look at the numbers, and his numbers have not dropped off. This has been a season for kickers where they've kind of underperformed. A lot of guys, like look at Ravens fans. They're calling for Justin Tucker to get cut. Are you kidding me? This guy was, being called the GOAT, one of the best kickers. And all of a sudden now fans are just turning on kickers every single week. Aubrey has been consistent. He's good for a long one, 50-plus yards each week, it seems. So despite it being predicted to be a high-scoring game, Joe, doesn't mean we can't see field goals, whether it's end of a half, end of the quarter, or just, utilizing, hey, we trust our kicker. We'll give it to him in this spot. I still think you can see a game with an over have field goals. They all add up to me. Over 1.5 field goals. Aubrey, I'll lock that one in.
I like it, man. I like the look. Listen, you're going to take points any which way you can get it, especially if you're Dallas at home. King Daryl in the chat room saying, he can see Lamb with a whole lot of receptions here. Maybe not. You're going to have to, if they're going to go toe-to-toe in a shootout, it better be Lamb having a whole lot of receptions and yards. Right, Andrew?
Yes. Well, you know what I really like with Lamb is his longest reception. That's a kind of a unique prop, right? Because there's only a couple guys like, if you're looking at yards for me versus, let's say, T. Higgins versus Jamar Chase, I actually might look towards T. Higgins, but longest reception, I'd look towards Jamar. So with CeeDee Lamb, there's a lot of mouths to feed on both teams, right? And I understand he's going to get a lot of attention, but let's say you have over 5.5 receptions for a guy and you watch him break out for one, 30-plus yard reception. Well, hey, you still need a handful more, even though he just cashed that big play. So I would be looking towards the longest reception for him to get the job done there.
Yeah, I am with you there. 66.5 receiving yards, I think, is what he opened up with. So this should be an interesting one. Certainly, Cincinnati, they are hurt in the secondary, I believe. They're hurt on every level, actually. The linebackers are out. Logan Wilson's out, too. So, yeah, there's a reason why a lot of money coming towards the over. Also, a lot of reasons to hop on board with you, Andrew. I mean, it was a light slate in the NHL here tonight. We just saw you on Puck Time. And, of course, I would encourage you guys to check out what Andrew and Andy had to say earlier on that show in the NHL. But what else you got locked, loaded, ready to roll for us here at WagerTalk.com?
So, Joe, this is one of those games tonight, Monday Night Football, where there's not just one or two props. There's a lot to like, but I've narrowed in on my 2 absolute favorite NFL props for Monday Night Football, Cowboys, Bengals. You guys can get those at WagerTalk.com on an 8-2 NFL totals run. No bet on the total tonight, but I will have one out later on tonight for this upcoming week. And I have a great promo code, NET49. NET49 will get you 7 days of my NHL for $7 a day. You'll save $30. It's a great deal. And this is one of those weeks, Joe. We've got no Puck Time show on Wednesday, no Puck Time show on Friday. And that's because the NHL doing what they do best, just absolutely jam-packing a few days and not giving any love to Wednesday or Friday. So The reason I mentioned that, if you want all my plays sent right to your email, right to your phone, sign up for my NHL 7-day pass. You'll get every single play I release right away. The second I release them, the best number you possibly can get.
I love it. All right, Andrew, great stuff as always, man. Looking forward to what is going to be a great week, not only in football, but of course on the ice. And definitely, guys, make sure you check out Andrew on Puck Time all week long, including just the 3-game slate here tonight. But him and Andy were giving out some quality props and bets in those games on the ice. So check that out. Link is in the description. And if you haven't done so already, give us that thumbs up on YouTube. We'd appreciate it. I see Rick is back in the house in the chat room. Been looking in the obituaries for you, Rick. Glad to see you're still above ground. Always a pleasure to get you there. Chance Greer in the house as well. We appreciate you guys. Titan CT also showing up and showing out. Daryl Turner, always a pleasure to see you guys. Hit that like button. Come on, do us a favor. Also, subscribe to become part of that WagerTalk TV family, as we got one other big game tonight, guys, that we're going to go over for you. And it is exam week, I believe, not in every college, but for the most part, this is kind of the week that college basketball backs off. I think there's only a handful of games here tonight. 21 games, I think, as we move along on Wednesday. So not the usual slate of college hoops, but there is a Big Ten matchup here tonight we want to talk about involving Indiana and Minnesota, and we want to welcome in BP in the house. Bryan Power, ready to roll. Your neck of the woods over here, some Big Ten country there, BP, with Indiana and Minnesota. And of course, Coach Woodson not happy at all with his Indiana team, even though all they do is keep winning games. But talk to me about this. I mean, we had 100 games, I think, yesterday or on Saturday. And now this is the week everyone kind of backs off, getting ready for the holidays and exams and college hoops. But tell me, what are we getting tonight in this game between Minnesota and Indiana?
Yeah, well, Joe, I kind of like it because now we actually have time to take some inventory of what these teams have done. We don't have to sift through, like you mentioned, 100 games on a day. It can be overwhelming at the start of the season. Obviously, college sports, both football and basketball, it's a whole new world with transfers and stuff like that. It's hard to get a hand, know what you're having with these teams coming into the season. Now, though, we've got some data points and we can adjust. So you mentioned Mike Woodson not necessarily being happy. Well, there's lots of reasons to like this Indiana team coming into tonight, Joe. 3 consecutive wins and covers, as you alluded to. Friday, pretty easy win against Miami of Ohio, Ohio University, I should mention, just beating the MAC championship game in football. Indiana shoots 54% in that game, dominated the boards, 46-29. It was a 19-point win. However, it should be noted, it was only a 3-point game at the half, Joe, even though the Hoosiers never trailed. So it took them a while to pull away from the Red Hawks there. A negative assist-to-turnover ratio. I think that's what Woodson was really griping about. The team had more turnovers than they did assists. But they're here at home Monday. They're 6-0 straight up so far at Assembly Hall, and they're facing a Minnesota team they've beaten 8 straight times. So it's understandable why this number is where it is right now. But Minnesota, they've played a conference game, unlike Indiana. Now, it didn't go well. They lost by 18 at home to Michigan State. That's not great. And boy, the Golden Gophers have not been a great team to back, have they, Joe, so far? 1-7-2 against the number, depending on your closing line there. And that one cover was the season opener. So what this team needs to do moving forward, Minnesota, is improve on its three-point shooting. The three-point shooting has been horrible. Sub 30% this year, outside the top 300. You've got Dawson Garcia, but he needs help. And Mike Mitchell Jr. might be the guy to bring it, Joe, because he missed the first 7 games with an ankle sprain for Minnesota. What did he do for Michigan State? Well, I know that against Michigan State, I should say that game did not go well, but he made 5 of 9 threes. That's exactly the kind of improvement we're talking about. I think Indiana wins the game. We don't probably all agree on that, but the ATS result is going to come down to which team could dictate pace. You look at Ken Palm, IU's 51st in adjusted tempo. Minnesota, 362nd. That is 3rd slowest in the country. So if you like Indiana, that's probably correlated with the over. If you like Minnesota, that's probably correlated with the under. I'm not convinced the Hoosiers should be laying double digits here for a variety of reasons, one of which being Minnesota's had 2 extra days to prepare, Joe. I think they're ready for here. Conference play, a whole different animal, as you know, from the non-con. I know Indiana's looked good, except for that assisted turnover margin in the last game. But I think Minnesota, with Mitchell back in the lineup, keeps this one close on Monday.
Yeah, I've said it early on in the season too. Minnesota was a team, BP, that if they were laying points, I was fading. If they're getting points because of the way they play and because they want to slow it down to a crawl, you want to give me that many points. It's interesting to see exactly how that goes here tonight, especially if Indiana's going to keep turning the ball over. You got to love Big Ten basketball. In ways, it has changed a little bit here with some of the new teams and the realignment, BP. But for the most part, these two teams, what you see is what you get. And that's kind of the way it's been between Minnesota and Indiana now over the last decade.
Yeah, and to your point, Joe, about Minnesota and the points and not wanting to play as a favorite, they have not gotten more than 5 points in any game this season. So this kind of feels like the bottom of the market with the ATS slide. They've lost 3 or 4 straight up. But again, Michigan State is better than Indiana. Some of the other teams they lost to, Wake Forest, Wichita State. Those were, road games. Minnesota was only, +3, +2 in those 2 games?
Yep.
Here we're getting 10. That's a lot to work with in a conference game where, again, Minnesota does have the rest advantage. It's kind of a stinky one, obviously, given Minnesota's recent woes. But I don't know. It feels like bottom of the market on them.
Yeah, it does here, guys. And, of course, the college basketball tip-off show all throughout the college basketball season. Just another reason for you to hit that like button and subscribe button. You'll see me. You'll see BP and the rest of the college basketball handicappers throughout the week breaking down the biggest games here. And BP, now would be a good time. We have that finishing strong here, the end of the year, $199, all access, every play from your favorite handicapper. I mean, this is an amazing deal because it simply gives you the opportunity, not just one sport, but with bowl games, college hoops, NBA, man, all these sports that you are locked and loaded in. I get them all for $199. Feels like a pretty good deal here. What do you got ready to roll today over at WagerTalk?
Yeah, look, we're dusting ourselves off over the weekend. I'm not going to lie to you, Joe. I'm not going to lie to the people. Never have. It was rough in the NFL on Sunday, but we're bouncing back. We've got a play on the Monday Night Football game that I know that we've had a lot of talk about so far on the show. And the one bright spot over last week, I was 2 for 2 in college hoops. Had Duke over Auburn. Had Valpo plus the points against Drake as well. We've got a college hoops play right now, 2 for 1 at my page, wt.buzz/BP, just $19 for both Monday selections. And if you are looking to lock in, long-term, that deal Joe just brought up is a great way to do so. Also, college football had been great for about a year, had hit 67% for a year. The last 2 weekends, we've certainly given some back. If you're looking already ahead to the bowls, Joe, I'm already after we're done here, I'm going to start breaking down these playoff matchups in detail. Some of the other bowls, do my notes. Mark Zinno and I, Morning Wager co-hosts, we have joined together for an incredible deal. You get all of our bowl picks for just $199. That's 2 handicappers, $199 every bowl pick from the first one through the national championship game.
Another great deal. More reasons for you guys to hit that like and subscribe button. Visit these guys at WagerTalk.com. And I'll tell you this, I know the Morning Wager crew there, BP and Mark Zinno, they gave not 1, not 2, BP, but I believe 3 best bets in tonight's Monday Night Football game on today's episode. Is that correct?
Yep, 2 props, and we gave our take on the side as well. So, yeah, people can check that show out. It was a lot of fun, as it always is. And you can also check out the Power 5, where I give out not just the NFL, but some more college hoops as well, including the play I just talked about a moment ago. That is on there. I talked about Minnesota, Indiana.
Yeah, a little redundant, but that's fine there, BP. It's always a pleasure seeing you, as always. Now, get him out of mute his mic. I'm done with him. Good seeing you, though, BP. Like always a pleasure. Move on. We got to get out of here. We've got the opening line report coming up in about 15 minutes. And if you're just joining us, we told you, kind of must watch if you're serious about making some bets and cashing a few tickets here in the NFL Week 15. Teddy covers as well as Drew Martin. These guys will have you covered in about 15 minutes live here on Wager Talk TV. That stream will kick off. Of course, the Prez we'll be back tomorrow in this seat here for Wager Talk Today. It was fun sitting in for him. Always fun hanging out with Peasy, as well as Mac Brown in the house, Eric D., Jace Hartland. Always a pleasure seeing you guys. Really, a whole lot of fun, guys. Rick, also appreciate the Joey Lawrence comment. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about. But seriously, guys, like button, subscribe button, make plans to come back in about 15 minutes for the opening line report. Wager Talk Today. We'll be back tomorrow at noon. Guys, best of luck with your plays. Enjoy today. We'll see you again soon.